Hi everyone, it's Lucy Webster here. I'm the Quality Learning and Teaching, or QLT, online academic lead for the Faculty of Science. Thank you very much for listening to this recording. If you are unable to attend your whole school introductory session to the Quality Learning and Teaching standards. I wanted to start this presentation with a very quick thank you to most staff actually across the Faculty of Science. The Quality Learning and Teaching, or QLT project, is designed to lift the baseline standard of our current online subject design and delivery, with a particular focus on 3 areas, and I'll get to those in a second. But I just wanted to make the point there are already a large number of subjects in this faculty that are meeting or exceeding those expectations. So I want to make it clear that, that we are certainly acknowledging the good practice that is already going on across the faculty. Okay, so what are we trying to do? What is our Achilles heel? Why have I actually said that we're trying to address our Achilles heel? There's a whole lot of different external survey tools that are used to measure quality in our learning and teaching across the tertiary sector. One of these tools is called QLT, or Quality Indicators for Learning and Teaching, and it's one of the tools that is important, or that students can go in and have a look basically at the data and compare different institutions and different courses or disciplines across the sector. I just wanted to point out some really quite striking data when it comes to CSU's performance on this particular tool. And it's not unique to this tool. There are lots of other survey tools, both internal and external, that are really telling us the same sort of thing when it comes to our courses at CSU. So if I just quickly tell you what these graphs are, and I apologise, you probably can't read all of the text, but I'll give you a little overview. So on the left-hand side here, we have information for all universities. So this is the sector average on these different measures. And on the right-hand side, we have our CSU-specific data. The 2 bars actually represent data from 2014 and 2015. So you can see a difference, if there is one, in the data from the 2 consecutive years. And then the different colours represent the different measures that are that students are asked about in this particular survey tool. So there's their overall experience, their skill development, learner engagement, teaching quality, student support, and learning resources. Now, if you just quickly eyeball the entire sector versus CSU, what you can see is that in most cases, CSU looks pretty much about the same as that sector average. There is one measure where CSU actually looks like it is performing considerably worse than the sector, and that particular measure is the learner engagement measure. If you have a look at my next slide here, so sorry, I should have indicated that this data was for all CSU courses and all modes of study. If I now look at, once again, at all CSU courses, but only at distance or external mode of study, you can see, certainly across the sector, learner engagement drops once we move to DE mode of study. But at CSU, this is quite profound in terms of the learner engagement in our distance courses. If I, for comparison, show you that same data now for only internal or on-campus students, you can see not only is the learner engagement actually at sector average, it's slightly above. So the problem perhaps that we're addressing here is quite specifically related to our distance subjects. I was preparing this particular presentation for nursing, and once again, if we look at nursing by distance, you can see very low scores on our learner engagement. Once we move to internal mode of study, that certainly improves considerably. Okay, so what is CSU doing to focus its attention on this lack of engagement, or the perceived lack of engagement by students in terms of their distance or online studies. So CSU has come up with an overall online learning model, and I'm not going to talk too much about that in this presentation. Suffice to say that the model is currently being piloted in 28 subjects across the university, all faculties, and in second session this year, the largest enrolment distance courses will be particularly focused on in terms of looking across the entire course at the elements of this model and improving our subjects against all of these elements. But when it comes to the Quality Learning and Teaching project, I just wanted to indicate that we have a really distinct overlap with two elements of this model. So interaction between students and teacher presence. Now, if we have a look at what the Quality Learning and Teaching, or QLT, Key Performance Indicators, QLT KPIs, are actually referring to, if you have a look at these, the first one relates to the I2 landing pages. That one may be viewed as, well, how does that directly impact learner engagement? But I think, in my own opinion anyway, there is a basic standard that I think, or professional standard, that all of our CSU subjects should meet. The landing page is that first point of entry for a student into a subject, and by virtue of that, then I actually think there should be some quality information and presentation to our I2 landing pages. Aside from that, that is prime real estate in terms of a subject information, and staff actually already across the faculty are using that site as or that landing page as a really dynamic space to motivate and engage the students and to keep them engaged with the subject throughout the 14-week session. So I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a second. The other two KPIs both relate to interaction. The first relates to peer-to-peer interaction online, and the second relates to staff-to-student interaction online. So what I want to do is go through each of these key performance indicators and talk you through what the baseline standards are in terms of our expectations for all subjects being offered from Session 2 2016. Okay, so KPI 9, the numbering isn't in any particular order. This is the order that they would have appeared when you saw the full KPI list from 1 to 12. So the online team are just focusing on 3 of these KPIs. So KPI 9, it states that students will experience initial quality assured subject interact to landing pages and basic outline. You may wonder what basic outline means. We have taken that to mean the overall navigation, so the left-hand navigation menu of our I2 sites. So, what do we mean? What are some examples that might meet this particular KPI? Now, what we're not saying is that every single landing page must look identical and contain the same format and the same information. That would be absolutely downright boring. But what we are saying, and I might jump to the next slide and come back to this one, is that your landing page and your navigation needs to be functional, it needs to be informative, and it needs to be engaging. So what do we mean by functional? We would like to make sure that your navigation menu is clear and easy to use. In the Faculty of Science, we do have a current template structure, and from Session 1 2017, a university-wide template structure will come into play, which actually for the Faculty of Science will look very similar to what you're currently using. Your landing page needs to be informative. It needs to have some sort of basic heading. It needs to include the subject code and the subject name. Needs to include information about the academics teaching the subject. That may be on the landing page, or it may be in the contacts tool in the Faculty of Business. That information has been all sort of taken off the landing page and put in the contacts tool. But so long as it is clearly indicated somewhere easily accessible within the I2 site, then that's okay. We need to have some sort of basic overview or introduction to the subject area, whether that be text-based, in an audio or a video format. So that's the bare minimum, that's the absolute baseline. And then we're asking that that site needs to be somewhat engaging, whether it includes some sort of multimedia, so a really eye-catching image that relates to the discipline area, or perhaps you've got that audio or video introduction that makes your particular landing page engaging. You also really need to make sure that if you are using a template, that all of the auto text is hidden or removed prior to that site going live to your students. So what might that look like? Now, what I was going to say before with this particular page here is that there are many different ways that you might go about doing this. Some staff are using this as a really dynamic space, so they might have some sort of interactive content with, Google Maps or Padlet. If you don't know what those tools are, look out on our QLT blog, and I can certainly upload some information and tips on how to use those types of tools. Anna in the School of Environmental Science provided a really nice little on-location video that was perhaps a bit more relevant to her particular discipline area. She's got some images and a text-based welcome or description of the subject there as well. Staff in physiotherapy, there's got a nice GIF image, so an image that moves and changes. Then they've got some information and all of the academic contact information. Marie in pharmacy provides a really nice, enthusiastic or motivating welcome video and her contact information. So these people have all used really different approaches, but have all provided quite an engaging space for the students when they log into the subject. Something that I also want to tell you that we're doing in this project is that, and I'm sure these people won't mind me saying this, is that although I think the content on these welcome pages is actually really good, it is really hard in Blackboard to make things look good. So to have a really professional web design to your landing page is actually quite hard. So what we're doing is developing up some HTML code that you'll be able to just plonk in to your landing page, and I'll provide some screencasts on how you might like to apply that in your own subjects. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, so that's KPI 9. KPI 11 relates to the peer-to-peer interaction that's occurring in the online space. Now, just remember that I said at the start of this presentation that these KPIs apply to every single subject across the entire university. So that's on-campus and DE subjects. Now, by virtue of that, the baseline, or what you have to do to meet this particular KPI, in my mind, is quite low. Now, it's deliberately low because if you consider some fully on-campus subjects that may have a really heavy clinical component, and the students spend all day in the clinic with their peers and with the academic staff, well, then you're really not going to expect them to go home at night and spend a whole lot of time interacting online. However, if you have a fully distant subject, I think you're looking at an entirely different proposition, and you probably, or you should be expecting your students to interact with each other at a much higher level in the online space. So what do you need to do to meet the bare baseline standard for this KPI? You need to think about and have some sort of strategy for providing the opportunity for students to interact in the online space. So by designed interaction, we mean that you should provide the students with that opportunity for interaction, and that there needs to be some level of interaction occurring within the space that you provide. At the very bare minimum, the example given here, and really these are activated in our subjects by default anyway, is that there needs to be an active discussion board within the subject. Now, as I said, for a DE subject, we really would expect a lot more than just this bare baseline. Now, what might that look like? If I just jump back to this slide, once again, we are not proposing for any of the online KPIs a tick box style checklist, because it's just not going to work. There are so many different ways that you might like to engage your students to interact with each other. So remember, here we're talking about peer-to-peer interaction in the online space. You might use a wiki, you might use some sort of social media like Twitter or Facebook. You might use the groups tool in Blackboard to divide the class up into meaningful groups. You might use some sort of cloud-based tool like Google Docs to get your students to work collaboratively on different content or projects within the subject. You might use peer assessment. This is certainly something that's being used more and more across the faculty at the moment. Lots of people also using Peerwise for students to generate their own multiple choice questions and to share that with their colleagues. Lots of examples also not listed on this slide. There will be specific professional development sessions around peer-to-peer communication in the online space, so look out for lots of opportunities to learn more about how to enhance peer-to-peer interaction online. The last KPI relates to staff-to-student interaction. So once again, we're talking about interaction here. We, again, will not be providing any sort of tick box quality assurance checklist on you must do this, this, and this to meet this KPI in your subject. Again, there are a plethora of different ways that you might do this in your online subject, and it's about you working out what strategy works best for you. And I think, and I probably should have said this for the last KPI as well, I think it's really important for course teams to sit down and talk about the strategies that they're using in different subjects. We wouldn't want every single subject coordinator in every single subject for a particular course to have a wiki assessment task, for example. That would not be appropriate. So please make sure as you're thinking about this, that you're thinking not only at the subject level, but start thinking at the course level as well. So what do we need to do to meet KPI 12? We need, or you, as a subject coordinator, need to have some sort of communication plan. So how are you actually communicating on a regular basis with your students in the online space? With regard to facilitation, there should be some planned strategies for building your online presence throughout the subject, whether it be through the use of online meetings, CSU Replay, the discussion board or wiki, whatever it might be. Lots of different strategies again for an academic staff member to use. And once again, we're not saying that you would have to use every strategy, but it's about selecting the strategy that suits your teaching style and the subject that you are actually teaching. So once again, lots of different ways. You know, people really are already using the announcements tool a lot, but it's about making sure that the structure and the content of the announcements that you're sending out to the students are making that a really meaningful communication stream. Academics using multimedia in learning modules, providing quick audio podcasts or screencasts that introduce the students to the topic and then lead them through their area of study. You might not think about it, but that is a really nice way to have your teacher presence embedded throughout the learning materials in the subject. Lots of people already, certainly in the Faculty of Science, using CSU Replay and Adobe Connect, and notwithstanding, I know all of the technical issues that people have encountered with Replay this session. But you might like to think, if you have a fully distance online subject, you know, what is the best way for you to actually communicate information with your students? I threw up another example here, this academic from environmental science that sends a weekly puzzle out to a student. This is a conservation biology subject, and so what she does is every week sends out an image and saying, you know, here's the threatened species of the week, can any students identify this? What it does is actually means that the students are reminded that she's there. It brings them into the I2 site, it brings them into the discussion forum, and increases that engagement with the academic and with their peers. Okay, so that's a really brief introduction to the 3 online QLT KPIs and what you need to do to meet that bare minimum or that baseline. What will happen is there is an expectation for session 2 that, as I said, all subjects across the faculty are meeting these KPIs. Now, as I said before, there are already a lot that are meeting these KPIs. So from -2 weeks, so from the 27th of June, that's the date that MSIs go live, that is also the date that we expect that the I2 landing pages will be available in the subject site. So it will be nice to think that when a student logs in to view their subject outline, that there is some content on that landing page as well. So from the 27th of June, the QLT online leads will go and basically land, very briefly, on every single I2 site. So it's really important by the 27th of June that you have your landing page populated in your subject sites. In the mid-session break, or the residential school period for session 2, the QLT leads will come in and once again do a quick sort of spot check audit. In this case, we won't be looking at every subject, but have a look through the online sites for a range of different subjects across all of the schools in the faculty to measure how we're going against the peer-to-peer and staff-to-student interactions in the online space. Now, as I said at the start of this recording, this is an opportunity to use the resources available to improve your subjects. So what we will be doing is, certainly if you would like any specific individual feedback about your own subjects, then you can contact myself or your educational designer about that. We have a whole lot of examples of good practice that are being loaded up at this website here. What I might do is I'll just quickly show you. Just come out of this. This is the Quality Learning and Teaching blog. This is just a WordPress blog. What is in this site is there's information about us. There's those baseline standards about the 3 KPIs. If you're working well beyond that, you might be interested to go to this post here about moving beyond the baseline, where we actually start to look at the progressing and the exemplary standards against these 3 KPIs. There's the professional learning plans for each faculty. And then what you'll find in this page are a whole lot of little quick grabs from different subjects showing things that you might like to do or try in your subject. So here's an example about a wiki. So if you're not sure perhaps what wikis might be good for, then Tanya from the paramedicine course showcases an example of what she's doing in her PHC 401 subject. So if you can watch a short video there where she talks through the strategy that she uses around wikis. So there's lots of different examples there. Here's another one about using peer assessment and the Blackboard peer assessment tool. Here's another really nice little quick tip about how to plug in an interactive Google map on CSU Outreach. So if I zoom in here and a student is from Griffith, they know that DE Outreach is coming to Griffith on the 21st of July. So just lots of little quick tips and different ideas and different strategies, and what we're looking to do is just really keep building on this and keep adding to it. So if you're doing something innovative in your subject and would like to share that, I would love to hear from you. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do the work. I'm happy to go in and create a quick little screencast, or you can do it, or just grab some screenshots of whatever initiative you're using in your subjects. But this we really want as a dynamic space where academics can contribute. We can provide, well, we'll add a discussion forum in here as well so that we can create a community across the entire university where we share good practice. I won't spend too much time talking about this, but there will be professional development opportunities over the coming weeks that you might like to attend. Aside from myself, the Division of Student Learning or the Educational Design or Educational Support staff can also provide assistance. The new process for getting educational design or support assistance is actually through this SRS, which just stands for Service Request System. And if you log a job through there, then an educational designer will get in touch with you. That's about it from me for the quick overview presentation, but please, if you have any questions about this project or about the process, then I would really like to hear from you. So thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.